You're listening to Conversations Ignite.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today I'm joined by Michael Grant, an author, filmmaker, and world traveler who's lived a truly fascinating life. From running a film festival and volunteering at Sundance, to spiritual awakenings in India, to brushing shoulders with the ultra-wealthy, Michael's journey is full of amazing stories. Plus, we'll even take a look at his debut novel, which is narrated entirely by a vintage Cadillac. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey there. It's nice to be here.
We're very glad to have you here. So it sounds like you've had quite a interesting and full-packed career.
I've had a very varied career. I think we joke here that the resume is now 67 pages long. If you include milking a cow in India as part of a life skill. It meanders. I don't know if it's because I get itchy, and after a couple of years, like, okay, for all you future employers, I am very committed. But even though I'll probably only be there for 2 years. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just I've tried a lot of things, and some things work and some things don't, and I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse that I recognize when things aren't working and then have to change it. I think I often have an idea of what something's going to be like, and then when I actually step into it, it's not that, or it's just not a fit for me, and so I pivot, and I guess I do that. I've done that quite a bit. So, yeah, I mean, I could go through some of them if you want to hear some of the crazy things I've done.
So what did you start off with? Did you start off in like video film school?
No, it was actually a pivot right from the start. I went to school for architecture, and I spent 2 years in architecture school and then realized I love architecture. I don't love the math and engineering aspect. I love the vision and design and creation part of it. And when I was in high school, I was in plays, and I loved writing and I loved performing. I played piano, and I figured I couldn't put that into architecture, but I could put all of that into film. So I switched to film and finished with a degree in film, degree in photography, and then a minor in architecture, which I'm very proud to have that minor. And oddly, I've used the architecture training in a lot of the things that I've done. We've done house renovations and flipped a number of properties, and I'll go in and I'll see something and I'll be like, let's take out that wall. Let's put the bathroom where the living room is. Let's put the kitchen where the bathroom was. And I think that has sort of the ability and the skills that I learned in architecture school still carry through, even though I didn't finish there. So pivot right from the start.
That's very interesting. Because architecture to film is a total 365-degree change, but I like how you say, even though you're not currently using that degree for, work, it helps out in your personal life. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I sort of feel like everything builds on everything else. Like I don't, and it all feeds into the writing. So, anytime I have like a bad experience, I don't like to judge it as good or bad. It's just, some things, I like to say some things are things you look forward to looking back on when you're in it. Um, but even though, like, for me, owning a coffee shop was just hell on earth, I felt like I was in prison and it's other people's dreams, So, but I learned from that, and I carry, a lot of what I learned from that, the marketing, the organization. But I don't even drink coffee. I don't even know why I own that. But anyway, yeah.
That's awesome though. Now, how did you get into I guess film festivals? Did you run your own film festival?
We did. So when I say we, I mean my husband and I, John, and we've been together 30 years now. And when I finished film school, I had a film, and it was out in a bunch of festivals. And I'd won a big award in college that brought me to LA. to hang around on film sets for a couple of weeks with the president of the Cinematographers Guild at the time. And it was a big deal. I met a lot of really impressive people and had a lot of fun. And they offered me a job as the third camera focus puller on a unknown small sitcom. And I was like, I don't know. So we were driving back. I cashed in the ticket so I could take John, and we were driving back to New York. And he's like, so your film, you're on a road trip, you talk about all kinds of things. And he's like, so your film, it's in a bunch of festivals. What is that? How does that work? And I said, you submit, they look at 100 films, they pick one or two, maybe you submit 1,000, and then they pick them and curate it, and you pay a fee to have them, potentially take your film. And he's like, that's interesting. Why don't we start a film festival then? Why not? And John will sometimes throw out these ideas like, why don't we flip a house? Why don't we start a coffee shop? Why don't we, and it was, why don't we start a film festival? We'll collect a bunch of films. We'll get some venues. We'll show them. It'll be fun and seasonal. So we work part of the year and we can do what we want the rest, which is sort of always the goal, is to work a little and then have time for develop our own projects. So we did it. We started a nonprofit. We started the Empire Film. We ran it for 10 years. It was a touring festival. We'd get about 1,000 submissions. We'd pick the best 20 to 25, and we'd tour throughout New York State on a grant from the New York State Council from the Arts. And it was really good for a long time. And then it started not being so good when people were able to access all of the short films in other ways. YouTube was starting to become popular. People could start to stream things. There were more than 3 channels on TV. So and then we went to Sundance to see what it would be like to really take our festival to the next level. And also just to see what it would be like. This was 2005. And we realized at that point we had 3 other projects going on, and it seemed to be the weakest. So we let it go, and we just started going to Sundance every year. So now we just go there. So it's been 20 years that we've been going to Sundance.
Interesting. Awesome. How hard was it to, I guess, manage doing a film festival?
It was intense. And when it started, it was easier because we only had a few venues and we would only get, maybe 200 films. But by the end, it took about 4 months to watch every film. And we watched, for anyone who submitted to Empire Film Festival, we watched every frame of every film. We didn't, if we knew we weren't going to accept it after 5 minutes of a 30-minute film, we would still watch the other 25 minutes because you paid for us to do that. And we wanted to always have a comment for you if you asked. So it took months to get through all the films. And then we would curate these packages and schedule with every theater, get volunteers at every theater, try to get sponsors for every theater, travel around. It was really intense. It was a lot of fun too. And I loved it because I just got to see what everybody was making, and you'd watch the Oscars and you'd see all the short film snippets for like 5 seconds, and you're like, I want to see that. Where can I see that? There was no place to see that. So we made it so that you could see it. And I got to see them, and I loved it.
That's so cool. That's very interesting and very unique. I don't think too many people can say that they've done that before.
Yeah, our big failing in it is that we just couldn't seem to get community support or sponsorship. And so for us, it it was really fun, but it was a haul. It got kind of upsetting actually when we did everything. We'd be on the radio, we'd be on the newspapers, we'd be promoting these amazing films, and then sometimes you get an audience that would fill the theater, and other times you'd get 10 people, and you're like, we've made this great thing. Where is everybody? you know? It's a little frustrating, especially at the end, because we really felt like we knew what we were doing, but we just couldn't seem to wake up the audience, especially if Friends was on. We had no chance of getting an audience.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that could get real frustrating. Now, you had said you've been going to Sundance for the past 20 years. Do you volunteer there, or what do you actually do when you go? Are you just going for fun?
Yeah, we do volunteer, and we didn't the first few years, and then we started volunteering, and we would do it part time. We actually, so we got a timeshare on eBay for $1 in Park City because the people who were selling it spelled it with a C, Parc, instead of Park. So we bought a timeshare there without even really knowing. Before we had even been to Park City, we just found it, bought it, paid the maintenance fee, which at the time was like, I don't know, $400, and we had a place to stay. So if you have a place to stay, they look more fondly on you being a volunteer. So we were part-time volunteers. So we would work 3 or 4 shifts, typically ushering in the theater, helping with crowd control, stuff like that. And we get to see amazing films. And, for every 4 hours you work, you get to see a film. There's other benefits. There's a real community. We love the people there, and we just did that year after year after year, until COVID hit. The maintenance fees kept going up. We got rid of the timeshare, and we went full time. So now we're full time volunteers, and it's just great to be in the energy. It's great to be able to see these films before everybody else. Um, it's fun to I don't know, be walking down the street and have a conversation with someone like Lily Tomlin, and I've seen her film before she's seen it. So like, I don't know. I just love that. I just love that.
That's so cool. That's probably every like film buff's like just dream is what you're doing.
I guess. I mean, and for us, we've been doing it for 20 years. So for us, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's old hat because it is exciting, but it's sort of like, now we're going to see this film, and then we're going to go to this party, and then we're going to meet up with these people and go to this, thing, and da 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 da. And yeah, it's like a bucket list thing, but for a lot of people, we've been doing it for so long, it's just second nature. And we love it. We have really good friends there. And I'm excited it's moving to Boulder because my family's in Denver, so it'll be a lot easier for me to see them without making multiple trips.
Awesome. Now, I did forget to mention, can you actually let my audience know, just in case they don't know what Sundance is or where it is, can you let them know exactly what it is?
Yeah, Sundance Film Festival is one of America's premier independent film festivals. It was started by Robert Redford in, what was it, 1981 in Utah. He had this vision of sort of getting away from Hollywood and also incorporating the natural beauty and surrounding of the beautiful mountains there, and people could ski during the day or hike, and then come see a film and get together. And it grew. It really now has a lab. It has filmmakers come together and teach other filmmakers and help each other. And it's this, I think 60,000 people at least go to Sundance every year, and it generates hundreds of millions of dollars for the local economy. And this will be the last year in Utah. Now it's moving to Boulder, Colorado, starting in 2027.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Because I totally forgot to mention even what it was. Um, so what kind of experiences have surprised you or kind of giving you some insights while volunteering or just being at Sundance?
Um, I'm sorry, I'm like sort of blanking here because I'm trying to put 20 years into one or two fun and clever stories for the audience. um, Maybe repeat the question and I'll try to figure it out.
So what has kind of surprised you or been like some really fond experiences while, either volunteering at Sundance or just being there watching films? Has anything kind of surprised you?
Yeah, one of the things that surprises me is the accessibility of it. A lot of people think, "Oh, it's Sundance, I could never go." You can go. It is entirely possible to go. Um, you can get waitlist tickets. You can get tickets. Everybody seems to have an extra ticket when they're coming off the bus that you can buy. You can get tickets from the box office for films for the next day. So it is possible to just go to Park City. The problem is housing. It is expensive, but You can also stay in Salt Lake where it's not expensive and it's only a 45-minute drive up the mountain. So there is a way to do Sundance that doesn't break the budget. And I think people think that they can't, and you can. Some of my favorite things have been being at the premieres of films and nobody really knows what it is. Like we were at the premiere of Little Miss Sunshine, and the whole cast is there, and there's always a Q&A. And I mean, there was so much energy in that room because nobody knew anything about that film or any of its surprises, and all of the tone and the cast, and it was just so light and happy and meaningful. And it was just great to be part of that experience. I've also had a lot of fun at some of the parties because you never really know who's going to drop by, and sometimes it can be like I can I name drop? I don't want to, but I do.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we were at a party for one of our friends is an actor, and he was in one of the films, and we went to the cast party after, and sort of behind the velvet rope, which was pretty exciting. And we're there, and we're hanging out with Kieran Culkin, and we were like, hey, it's really nice to meet you. We loved you in, this movie, Igby Goes Down. And he's like, oh, yeah, that wasn't me. That was Rory. We're like, oh, well, we loved you. And, this other thing we saw, he's like, yeah, that was Rory. And we're like, okay, so we know you. What have we seen you in? And he lists a bunch of movies. We're like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So we're having this little conversation. We're like, what's coming up for you? He's like, there's this like rich family drama thing on HBO coming out. I don't know. Like it should be good. We're in development. I'm excited to be a part of it, but you never know with any of these things. And that of course was Succession and sort of relaunched his whole career, and now he's Emmy award winning Kieran Culkin. But at the time it was just like, oh, I don't know, it's a little family drama. So I don't know. It's fun.
That's so neat. It must be so neat to be able to see films before everybody else, and just the whole experience of being there.
Yeah, there's an energy to it. I mean, you don't sleep much. Everybody gets sick by the end of it because it's 10 days. You're waking up at 6 in the morning to see the 9 a.m. film. You're not going to sleep until 1 because you're out, hanging out with people on the mountain at the main street. Is just lined with bars and restaurants and events, and you're just go, go, go the whole time at this high altitude, not eating well, not drinking too much, and just having fun. So yeah, it's almost like the minute you can finally sit down and just watch a film, it's like a moment of calm. And then the film is stimulating, so it's all great.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
We think of it as film camp for adults.
So, what's your favorite story or memory from being there?
Oh God, there's so many. Um, I can't think of one. There's just it's. I mean, it's been 20 years of we see between 20 and 30 films a year, and I can't do it. I can't nail it down. I can't. There's just too much fun to say this is. But that's not something about me. People are like, "What's your favorite book?" or "What's your favorite movie?" or "What's your favorite color or food?" I can't do it. It's like saying, "What's your favorite dog?" All of them. You know, every color, every food, all the dogs. I can't do it. Can't do it.
Oh wow. Wow, that's awesome. So many memories. Man, you being there 20 years, seeing you said 20 movies every day or
No,
every
no, 20 or 30 a year.
a
Yeah,
year. Man, that's
yeah.
so many movies.
It's a lot of movies, and sometimes they start to blend a little bit. And you're like, didn't we see that movie where that woman like fell down the stairs, but then she like is driving a car? It's like, no, that was two different movies. Like, you know, yeah,
Wow, that's awesome. Now now you also have spent some time in India.
yeah, yeah. So John and I started going there in 2001.
And what exactly have you done in India?
Wow, India is so I've been there 6 times. Each time has been for anywhere from 3 weeks to 8 weeks. Going back to 2001, we have probably been to about 45 different cities at this point, all over the country. We've done it from the backpacker version was our first time, where we were spending $5 or $8 a night on a room, and your meals were you could really literally live on $10 a day. It was cheaper for us to be in India than to heat the house in upstate New York, so we just like turned the heat down and went to India. Um, did the trains and crazy cars and all that sort of stuff. The first time we went, we were sort of following this book loosely, called, I think it was called From Here to Nirvana, and it had a list of living gurus and swamis and spiritual places to go, and we were interested in that. There's a spiritual center in upstate New York in the Catskills that we would go to that has a counterpart in India, and there's a guru there, and who spends half the time in each place, and we were there once for like a Christmas meditation and chant, and I didn't grow up with any of this, and I grew up this sort of sheltered Jewish kid, and to me there was like, and I always sort of knew, kind of like architecture, I kind of knew it wasn't really a fit in many ways. And going to India, I sort of started to understand why. And it's for me, it was just a different sort of spiritual connection. And it was more internal instead of external. And it wasn't performative the way I felt it was in the confines of the religion that I was born into and raised with. So, yeah, so we were there in 2001, and we're meeting gurus and we're meeting swamis and we're going to all sorts of beautiful places, and it was challenging and it was tasty and smelly and tough and cool, and you sort of come back with this energy. I think we call it the Shaktipat, which is this energy that you just feel like anything is possible. You're just like, it's like you put the battery on the magnet and it goes to 100, and you're just ready for whatever is next. And it sort of cracked me open and made me available to opportunities in a way that I don't know that I would have continued on all the other things that I did had I not sort of been able to see what was available to me. Does that make sense? I'm sort of rambling, but
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, kind of just being there, was that kind of like a spiritual awakening, just learning and being in?
it definitely was. So the first time we were there for, I think it was about 6 weeks, and it was challenging. I mean, it was exhausting. And about 3 weeks in, I got very, very sick. I had a bad hummus and tomato sandwich in Bodh Gaya, and it sort of set me down this really sort of negative, physically obliterated, state of mind. Um, Before we left, we were given these magic pills, and the nurse was like, if you get food poisoning, you take these and you'll be fine in a few days, but don't take them if you're traveling, because these are also going to debilitate you as much as the illness. So I knew I wasn't feeling well, but we had a 19-hour train ride down the eastern coast of India, and I didn't want to take a pill that was going to debilitate me if I'm going to be, running, to the hole in the bathroom. So I didn't take it, and I got really sick. And when we got to our destination, we checked into the hotel. The man there was like, "Okay, here's the key to your room, but I'm calling the doctor, and he's going to the hospital because he's going to die tonight, and I don't want to deal with the body." And he's saying this to John, and I'm over on another part of the, I'm like up against a wall. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like totally not fine. And so much of those 3 days of being sick on that train was just a big blur. I know I ate a banana somewhere. Um, and I wrote notes that are illegible. I don't even know what was going through my mind. But we ended up, he took me to a clinic, and John described it because I don't remember. I just know I was clutching a pillow. I don't even know whose pillow it was or where I got it, but I'm just like clutching a pillow. John says that he saw like little rats running through the gutters, and there were some bats swooping down. And we get to this long line. And there's like 50 people on this line, but they push us right to the front because I'm, on death's door. I wake up on like a gurney slash mortuary table. I don't know which, but I wake up and there's, an IV in my arm. I'd had shots, of antibiotics in my butt, and I just sort of like come to. I'm like, okay, gotta go to the bathroom, everybody. And they're like, no, you can't. You're like hooked up to all these things, and I'm like, nope, gotta go. They're like, okay, well, and the only place they had was this hole in the floor under the stairwell with this thin little like piece of fabric, and there's like 50 people out there in the waiting room, and I'm like, oh my god, but I'm never going to see these people again in my life. So off I go. And then they bring me back and they hook me up to everything again. Spent a couple hours there. The cost of saving my life ended up being about, I think it was about $5. Yeah, for all of the medicine and everything provided. So we gave them a lot more so that they could help other people. After that, I was sort of said to John, like 2 days later, we're in another town and recovering still and pretty weak. And I'm like, if we have to change the ticket and go home early, should we? Because I was like, have we seen all of India that we're going to see? And he says to me, he's like, let's just take it easy today. Let's just walk down the street, get a chai, visit a temple, meditate, do nothing. Let's make that the whole day. And we went to this temple. We're in this town called Tiruvannamalai. And at the time, it wasn't even most guidebooks. It describes as a quaint little town of 300,000 people. Here, 300,000 people is like, a massive city, but there it's just a quaint little town that nobody even writes about. It has 2 restaurants and a post office, according to the guidebook. 300,000 people. So we're like, okay. But we go to this ashram and I meditate and I have an experience. I have a vision. Up until that point, meditation for me was just sort of breathing deeply and calming down. But in this particular meditation, I went somewhere else and I was given a message. And I took that message with me. When I came out of the meditation, I thought it had been maybe 20, 25 minutes. John said it had been about 2 hours. And I'm walking through other grounds of the temple and I have this sort of feeling, it's like burned in me, right? Like I know, like I understand now, I have this message. And I see up on the wall the guy who in my meditation gave it to me because he was sort of telling me what I needed to know. And I'm like, where is he? Because I want to thank him. They're like, oh, you want to thank him? Okay, come with us. And they bring us around and they bring us to this room where he died in 1950. And they preserved the room. They stopped the clock and preserved the room, and you can see the room. And I'm like, okay. So, because to me, it was like I was having a conversation with him, and I was, and I wasn't, but I was. And for about 10 years, that sort of was fuel for me. And when I went back again years later, went right back into the same kind of meditation, got more information from him. And it was just beautiful and informative and lucid. And it stays with me. And after that, we went another time. And he says, okay, you've had a lot of time with this now. And you've kept it to yourself, and that's fine. You can share it if you want. You can share the message with people. So if you like, I can tell you what he said to me. It sort of built that up. And yeah, that was like, yeah, tell me. Um, okay. So when I say the word I, it's you saying it to yourself. It's not the guru saying I, it's me saying I or you saying I. So here are the 10 points. It's I am good. I am holy. I am joy. I am love. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am gifted. I am creative. I am open. I am here. And that's what I got. And it's like burned in my brain. And the last time I went, which I guess would be the fifth time I was there, I sort of thanked him for all of that information. And each one is like a book of knowledge that came with it, um, that I can take with me into other meditations and thoughts and, pull together. But overriding all of that is one more. I appreciate. And the word appreciation, there's three meanings to it. One is I'm thankful. Another is I'm thankful for you and your contributions. I appreciate what you've done. And the third is I rise. I'm appreciating. And those three things combined with the other 10, that's sort of what takes me through life.
Wow, what an amazing journey. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
India's pretty cool. Yeah.
Very interesting and amazing. Wow. That's all I can say is wow.
I just feel really lucky that, I've had the ability to go there and then be open to receiving that, um, and to be able to share it. It's just, I just feel like my life is not without challenges. Everybody has their thing or multiple things. But my mother used to say, Michael, you lead a charmed life. And I think in her mind, that was sort of a negative thing. But for me, it's like, I don't know that it's charmed. It's just but there's definitely blessings there. I definitely have, um, there's just definitely an appreciation, again, that word, for all the abilities that I've been given and able to use, I guess.
Wow. So you had this amazing journey. You've done so many awesome projects. How did you jump into writing a novel?
Yeah. Okay. So I've always been writing my whole life. If I'm not writing, then I'm behind a camera. There's always a camera or a pen in my hand. Um, Fifth and sixth grade, we had the same teacher for both years, and she had journal assignments every week, and she would give happy grams to the three best essays or responses to her prompts. And it was my favorite day of the week when we get that prompt, and I'd get to just spend a couple days figuring out the best way to write it. I got a happy gram every week, and the three people who got happy grams were allowed to read their essays for everybody else. So I was not a happy kid for much of my elementary school years. I was bullied. It was not a fun time, but I loved the writing. That was my big escape, um, in many ways from that experience. Continued to do it in high school, junior high. I was just always writing. So fast forward to when I got out of the coffee shop ownership jail by selling it. I got a job in New York City as a real estate photographer, and which combines photography and architecture. So we're back to that. Um, the problem was I was living about 3 hours upstate, and the job was in the city Monday through Friday. So thanks to Craigslist, I found a roommate and rented a room in a house in Jersey City. Didn't really have money to have a good place, a great place there, and still supporting the life upstate. So every Monday I drive down, spend the week in the city, and then go home on the weekends. And the place in Jersey City, we couldn't afford internet. So I'd come home from work and I'd, make my dinner. And then it's like, okay, I've got, a couple hours. And when you don't have internet, you're like, what am I going to do? So I would read and I would write. And I started writing about my grandmother and her experience in the home that my family put her in. And I showed it to someone and they're like, this is great, but it's also like really depressing. I don't want to read more of this. And I'm like, and I sort of don't even want to write more of this because it's really awful. Um, it's like the writing is beautiful, but I don't want to read this. I'm like, I get it. I get it. One of the things that I missed about the coffee shop was we had a lot of college and high school kids in there. And now I'm in this other sort of life, and I was sort of walled off from that energy, and I missed it. I missed having the banter and their weirdness that I remembered having as I was in high school. And so I woke up one day after my friend said this, and I'm like, oh my God, I know what happens. And the entire story was like being in that meditation where it's like, here's your story. And it was just given to me. And then I had a structure. And then from that, I'd come home and I'd work on it and I'd work on it and I'd work on it. And after about 2 years, the job ended because all my jobs end after 2 years. And I was unemployed, and I would spend the morning looking for work and I'd spend the afternoon working on the book. So when I finished it, I sort of let it sit for a while, and I gave it to John, and he read it and he's like, I have notes. I'm like, okay. I'm like, no, it's perfect. There are no notes. It's done. I finished. He's like, I have notes. Um, and I took his notes and I was thinking about them, and I was thinking about them for a very long time. And then a lot of other jobs happened where we started a town car business and we're driving people around in fancy cars in New York, from Saratoga area and down to New York. And then, we moved, and then I started working, doing other things. And it was just like, I just couldn't get back to it. It was on the other side of the pool and the current was just too strong. I just couldn't get there. Or the ocean. I don't know. Anyway, finally, the pandemic hit and everything stopped, and I had time again. And I guess the muses come to me when I am not desperate for money and I have time. So I apologize for starting a worldwide pandemic, but that's what I needed to finish my book. Um, so I did. And I spent that, year in lockdown just rewriting basically from the notes that he had given me that I had ruminated over for 5 years, and realized I had to sort of rewrite a lot of the book. And I did, chapter by chapter. Started a writers group so we could all critique each other's work in a very structured and supportive way. And that really helped me to get to the finish line.
Wow. Wow, so cool.
Yeah, it was intense.
So, what's the title of your book?
Okay. I like to talk a lot. I use a lot of the words. It's called the Limited Edition Bicentennial Cadillac Convertible Joyride.
Okay, so now this is narrated by a Cadillac?
It is narrated by a vintage 1976 limited edition Cadillac Eldorado convertible.
And how did you come up with narrating it with a vintage Cadillac? Because I don't think I have ever heard of a book before narrated by a car.
Let me first explain, and it's on page 1. This is not a magical car. It can't pop its own trunk. It can't drive itself. It doesn't fly. It doesn't talk to people. What the car has is a consciousness and an omniscience that allows us to know everything about everybody in the story. It's the only constant witness. And whenever somebody touches the car or sits in the car, it knows that person. And there's an explanation for all of it. It's all in chapter 1, which is free online on my website. But the reason the reason it's narrated by the car was actually not my brainstorm. It was John's. It was one of his many notes. The original book had the same story and the same structure, but it fluctuated between different people telling their side of what happened. You have Muriel and you have Eve, and then you had Lem, and then you had other people, and they were all saying, well, no, here's what happened. Oh, here's what happened. And then this happened. And he got confused. And he's like, you really just need one voice in this. And I'm like, but you can't do one voice when some people don't know what other people are doing. How do I, and I don't want it to just be this overriding omniscient voice. And he's like, well, I'm like, the only one who's there who knows everything is the car. And he's like, so make it the car. I'm like, make it the car? That's crazy. I can't make it the car. Maybe I can make it the car. I wonder if I can make it the car. And then, sure enough, I made it the car.
Wow, that's awesome. I love how I love the note that he gave you about making it the car, because you're right, when you're listening or when you're reading a book, um it can get overwhelming to listening to all these different multiple, voices talking, and it's not the same if you have, the ominous president's, you know, voice just talking. So what an awesome way to incorporate it all and make it narrated by the person or by the object that's always there.
Yeah. For me, it was like, I, so when I was growing up, I liked to read a lot, but usually when I'd go to the library, I would just check out architecture books and study floor plans. For some reason, I never like got books that you could actually like literature from the library. Um, but my dad read a lot. But my dad liked to read John Saul and Stephen King and spy novels and airplane crash novels. And so I would always pick them up when he was done. So I'm like a 9-year old reading Cujo and The Shining. And but one of the books that he had that I read that really impressed me was Dolores Claiborne, because the entire book is told by a woman talking to a cop while she's sitting in a chair. And you know everything about her life in this one conversation. And I sort of that made an impression on me. So thank you, Mr. King. um, we met at Syracuse in 1991, and that inspired me a little bit. So, and I enjoyed that book. So, thank you. Um, but yeah, so that was just something that I was like, I wonder if I could pull this off. And there was a lot of ripping and stitching and reworking, and I had to come up with a way to make the device work where it wasn't cheesy or cheeky. It had to make sense, and but I think I did. So you read it and tell me.
Awesome. That's so cool. Very, very so that's very neat. It's awesome. It's cool how you came up with a concept. Now if people want to, you said that the first chapter is free on your website, but after everybody reads it and loves the first chapter, where can they buy the book?
You can buy the book through my website, which is michaeljgrant.com. And J is Jai. So it's Michael, Michael, Jai, Grant, Grant.com. You can buy it there. There are links there. It's also available through Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes and Noble. Uh, you can get it from your local library. You might have to request that they purchase it, which I'm happy with. Then you can read it for free, and they'll have a couple copies on their shelf for other people. Um, and it's also, we offer a discount for book clubs, and there's talking points on there. And if you want me to zoom into your book club to defend my novel, I am happy to do so.
Um, do you have any other books coming out that you're working on?
I'm working on a number of books. I'm working on 3 right now. I don't know when I'm going to finish or when they're going to come out. Right now, it probably won't be till next year, because once again, my life sort of works in like 2 or 3 year chunks. And right now I'm sort of finishing a chunk and I'm about to start a new one. So I'm sort of taking this summer to sort that out. And hopefully by the fall, I'll be settled to once again dig in. I'm trying not to start another worldwide pandemic. Even though it was a devastating time, it was a fruitful time for me creatively. Um, anyway, so I'm not sure when, but anything I'm doing, I typically post on my, Facebook or Instagram or the website.
Once again, can you tell everyone your website? And you said you've got a Facebook, Instagram also?
Yep. So it's just my name. It's Michael J. Grant, Jai. That's my website. That's my Facebook, and that's also my Insta. It's all the same.
Well, Michael, it's been so great to talk to you today. Everyone, please go check out his first chapter on the website. I know as soon as I'm done here, I'm gonna go check it out, read it, and you don't have to worry because I will definitely be buying it. So, because
Awesome.
I want, because
There's also a little YouTube video trailer of what it is. It's like a movie trailer, but it's for the book, so you can get the whole synopsis there about what it's about, because it's not just about the car, it's actually about the people in it.
Awesome. Well, like I said, Michael, it's been such a pleasure to have you on. I'd love to have you on again, and we could maybe talk about some more adventures you've had at Sundance, dive deeper into your novel, all that good stuff.
I'd love it. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was really fun for me to do this, so thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, not a problem. I've had a great time, especially just hearing about all of your adventures and everything.
uh,
Very, very
more
inspiring.
more to come, I think. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. It's been, like I said, great to have you on. And everybody, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Conversations Ignite. See you next time.